So funny.
All right, guys. Hi, I'm here. I'm Melissa, and I'm here today with Maureen McGannigan. And Maureen is going to tell us a bit more about alopecia, her alopecia, and the alopecia community, and what's going on with that, and what's new in the legislation with alopecia. Since Maureen is part of the board of the National Alopecia Areata Foundation, so she's a wealth of knowledge, and we've been friends for a very, very long time. So, Maureen, why don't you tell everybody about your alopecia story?
Well, first, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah,
Nice
sure.
to be connected with you again and through all these years. So I had alopecia areata since I was 16. So I just turned 60. So 44 years, if I can do the math.
Rockstar.
And like so many people, it started as a spot in the back. I was actually modeling my hair, and my hairdresser found it and said, like, what's this little spot in the back? And I actually knew what alopecia areata was because even though I was younger, I knew someone who had it before me. So, like so many people, it took its time. You know, one spot would fill in, another would fall out, and kind of moved all over my head. And you get really good about, doing the comb over and all the tricks and
For sure.
so it took a while to fall out. I never went to alopecia areata totalis or universalis. I was always alopecia areata. But the weird thing was my hair spontaneously regrew for 3 times. Just grew back in, stayed in for several months, and then would fall out. It'd get patchy and everything. So after the last time I was about 25, and I was like, well, I kind of got used to having hair, so that's when I started to wear wigs. But like so many people too, you go through that whole roller coaster of emotions, like if it's in, you're excited, but you're afraid it's going to fall out. When it
Mm-hmm.
falls out, you want it to grow back in. But then you're like, do I really want it to grow back in? Because I don't know if I can deal with this again. And then, that's the physical side of it, but then the emotional side too of, living with this and the stares, especially back then, of, I can't control this. If you have high blood pressure, you can take a pill. You have other things, you can take medicine. No, nobody was looking into this for research.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't know what alopecia areata was. So it really, it was very difficult, high school into college, to pretend like my hair was there when it wasn't. But at that point too, I got very lucky because the National Alopecia Areata Foundation had just started, and the second support group in the country was in Philadelphia. And literally, this woman came up to me at church and said, I know you have alopecia areata, and there's a meeting at Sandy's house on Wednesday night. You should attend. And then the woman disappeared. It was like this angel appeared to me, told me I need to show up at this meeting.
Right.
And seriously, I have no idea who the person was, but I went to the meeting, and that was the beginning of like really turning around, learning about my condition, and meeting other people and saying, like, I need to get involved. I need to educate myself. I need to help others because my family, my friends, and then the NAP community got me through it. So I wanted to give back and really get involved. So long answer, but so it's been a long journey.
It has been. I know I've told other people on my other videos that I was a support group leader, but so were you. So tell us a little bit about the support efforts that you've made in the area you're in now.
Okay, so fortunately, I have stayed with the National Alopecia Areata Foundation all of these years. It's the premier organization for research to understand what's happening, to interact with the pharma companies and with the National Institutes of Health and the FDA, and then globally, not just in the U.S. But then the mission is research, support, and awareness. So part of that support was being a support group leader and getting people together, and whether it was, sitting in a big room or just a couple of us or even phone calls just to talk to people and say, I get it. You truly do. You have an instant bond as soon as someone says, I have alopecia areata. You just have that instant bond with that person because you know what they're going through, the anxiety, until you get to that level when you go, okay, you know what, I hate to say it, there are other things that could be wrong with me,
Yeah.
but this is my way to accept it and live with it. So we did a lot in the support group. Started connecting parents with parents,
Yeah.
singles, married. because everybody has their unique way of dealing with it or not dealing with it. And then also connecting people with NAPS conference. So outside of COVID, there's a conference every year, and upwards of 5, 6, 700 people attend. And actually, it's an international conference. And it's a weekend. We always say that will change your life. It really is just so amazing. There are now presentations from the pharmaceutical industry. There's the doctors present to us, the researchers. There's time to ask questions. And then there's the support group. So it's the focus on if you're a parent, if you're a child, if you're dating, if you're, trying to go back into the workforce. And just really things that help you with day-to-day life and really living with the condition.
Well,
So
I will
there's just amazing amount of support out there.
There is. I will tell you some of the conferences I've been to. In Boston, D.C. I went to so many conferences. And the one thing you're not looking at is the dance party the night before, where the ladies flip off their hair and they do a little twirl on the dance floor. And it's some of the best times ever. I got to tell you, I've been to some of the meetings at the conference where they talk about humor and how to, if you want to use humor with your alopecia to try to handle it with the public. Some of the stories I have heard are just so much fun to spend time with people who are relaxed and happy and learning as much as they can. So I will be honest with you, I haven't been in a little bit, but I know there has been some new developments in the legislation piece. So a lot of us on here are not as familiar with that part of it. Can you tell us a little more about what's going on from that standpoint?
Yes. So this past conference, we were in Washington, D.C. in the end of June, and there was a whole legislative liaison panel. So it's a group of 300 people in the U.S. who I'm one of them, and we get trained by NAP and by an agency in Washington, D.C. on what our asks are. So when we're contacting our representatives, our ask is, more funding for NIH research into alopecia areata. As most people who are watching your broadcast know, when you buy a wig, it's not reimbursed by insurance. So I'm happy to say that in the House of Representatives, there is HR, I have to look at the number, 5430. So that bill was introduced. We now have a companion bill in the Senate. So that's S 4708. And what that is saying is that wigs are durable medical equipment, because right now most of the insurance companies are rejecting any claims because they're saying it's cosmetic. Well, we all know it's not cosmetic. It's a medical issue. So this is probably going to get tacked on to another law, but we have to get through the usual, bill and all the approvals in order to make this become law so that all of the insurance companies have to reimburse us. But the cool thing that happened at the conference, we were in Washington, and hopefully everyone knows that Representative Ayanna Pressley from Massachusetts has alopecia universalis, lost her hair in a couple of weeks, but she came to the conference and she was part of the panel. And she wasn't the representative, yes, that's her, but she was one of us. And she sat there, she was taking selfies with people and was so sweet, but sat there and talked to us as part of our community and went through that whole emotion, all of that we feel when all of a sudden you see that first spot and then, a week later, all of your hair is gone. And, here she is with everything going on in the world, and she has to show up at work. And, she's got her big braids one day and the next day she has no hair. Yeah. So she gave us a lot of guidance, so my big message here is what she has shared with us. You have to contact your representatives just tell them your story. You can write them a letter. It's easy to find who your representative is. Just find them a note and tell them your heartfelt story and say, please support these bills because they need to become law. It's one more step of helping us to deal with alopecia areata. Putting a wig on your head isn't the end all be all, but for many people it really helps. And this is just another step of moving into recognition for alopecia areata, and then to have a law that says when you get a wig, it's reimbursed by your insurance company.
Maureen, that's so important and helpful. Can you rename the two bills again that people can?
Yes, so it's HR 5430 and S as in Senate 4708.
Okay.
So when you contact all your representatives, make sure you reference those. It's easy. You can go online and send emails. And if you're a parent, if you're living with it yourself, just quick tell your story. And I actually had the honor of talking with Madeline Dean, who is a representative right outside of Philadelphia, and had a Zoom session with her. And we went into the call a couple of months ago and said, we have 17 of your colleagues from the House of Representatives who have signed on. And before I even got it out of my mouth, she said, I'm number 18.
I love that.
I started crying.
I would have cried too.
I'm on a Zoom call with someone from NAP and someone from the House of Representatives, and she said it, and I just started to cry. And then I thought, it's the power of asking. Nothing can be done, as my mom would say, unless you ask. So, we really need this legislation. We need more involvement. We need more awareness, and then just more funding for research.
Is there a deadline or anything? That people need to do that, or?
No, sooner rather than later. I did ask about that, and I had to kind of Google things because I couldn't remember my history of when the bill becomes a law and everything. But there's no time limit. Hopefully, I'm saying that correctly. But sooner rather than later, if you can go on and just Google, who's my representative, and you put your zip code in, and it'll give you all the contact information.
Yeah, I think that's important. This is September is Alopecia Awareness Month, so this is the perfect opportunity for everybody on here when I post this video to go on there, and I'll put a little blurb that tells everybody and references these two bills that everyone should write about to their congressman, because this is where it starts, right? One person can make a difference, and it starts with sending an email, right? So.
It literally, I emailed Representative Dean's office and didn't hear back, bugged them again, and then they said, okay, for work and schedule a call. So it was quite impressive. You're sitting there waiting for the call to start, and the House of Representatives seal is on my screen.
They're watching us.
It was amazing.
Oh my gosh, what an incredible story. Obviously, I love speaking with you and all that. I would say with my last question for you, Maureen, because I could stay on with you all day, is what would you tell a new alopecian? It's one of my favorite questions. Like, so you and I have had alopecia for a very long time. We forget what it's like in the very beginning stages, and now that you've had all this experience and you've spoken to so many people, what's one thing that you would tell someone who just has alopecia, whether it's in patches or unfortunately is losing it in large clumps and is a little confused? And what are their next steps, would you say?
That's a great question. I would say, as crazy as it sounds when you're first diagnosed, you really are going to be okay. But you need the support of all of us. This is an amazing community.
Yeah.
It's an amazing community who will support you no matter what. They get it. They're there to help. I know. Whether it's a phone call, get together to have coffee, join a support group meeting. Now they're, nationally, you can join one by Zoom, but talk to people. You don't have to tell your story to everybody, but just talk to somebody, because we get it and we want to help you. And we want to get you to the stage where you're comfortable with it. You may not like it. None of us asked for it, but at least you're a bit more comfortable living with it. But the support is out there, and you will be okay.
All right. Thank you, Maureen, so much for joining us today. It's been really fun. I'm going to hit stop recording. So thanks, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you. Happy Alopecia Areata Awareness Month.